Hey everybody, James Robor here, and I wanted to come on here and first of all announce that my wife and I just reached an important milestone. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary. Wow, that's an amazing accomplishment. You know, a lot of couples don't make it that far, and I know that it's only by the grace of God that we've been able to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary. And Heidi, if you're listening, and I know you are, I love you so much. You're my Colta. I am so grateful to have you in my life. You have changed my life. I would not be the same without you. And I'm just so thankful to be able to have you as my best friend, as the mother of my three children, my lover, my mentor, my everything that I could hope for in a wife. And I just thank God for you. So I wanted to come on here and share just a little bit of wisdom and some of the things that I think have helped us to be married for 20 years. I think I'm qualified to talk about this. I think if you've been married for 20 years, then you know something about marriage, and you know what it takes to have a marriage that perseveres. And so the first thing that I want to cover in what we can call tips for a successful marriage. For a long-lasting marriage is the idea of the triangle. So marriage is a triangle. It's three people that it takes to have a successful marriage. It's not just two. It really does take three people for a marriage to succeed. Now, sometimes everyone's not participating, and it might just be two for a while, but ultimately it does take three. And the three people is, of course, yourself, your spouse, and God. Because here's the thing, you trying to have a successful marriage without God is really foolish. I know that if we had not made God the center of our marriage, and if he had not been an integral part of our marriage from the very beginning, I know we would not have made it this far. It's only because of God's love and his grace and his guidance and his wisdom and his word and his spirit. It's only because of that can I sit here and testify that I've been married for 20 years to a wonderful woman, and I still love her. Furthermore, neither one of us have committed adultery. Neither one of us have had an affair. Neither one of us have even kissed another person of the opposite sex. I haven't even held another woman's hand. Now, do I see beautiful women that I find attractive? Of course, I'm a man. But that's where it stops. It's like, oh, there's a beautiful woman, okay. But I have a beautiful woman at home, and she's enough for me. And if I ever even think about doing something with someone else, I quickly remind myself what a good wife I have and how foolish that would be. And the consequences would not outweigh the very short reward that you would gain from it. It's just not worth it. It's like paying $1,000 for a Big Mac. It's really insane if you think about it, to give up so much for so little. And so I thank God for his strength and his wisdom to keep me in the straight path, and to stay committed, and to keep my wife as a high priority in my life and my children. And I'm so thankful for them, and I'm so blessed to have them. And I think that's the key too, is to remind yourself how blessed you are, and how good God is, because He allowed you to have these people in your life. And so putting God first in your marriage, that includes praying together, coming together in agreement and praying, and praying for one another, and sharing with one another your concerns, and taking it to the Lord, and letting God touch your marriage, and letting God heal your marriage, and not trying to hide anything from each other or from God. It's very important. So keeping God first in your marriage, being grateful and thankful, not hiding anything from each other. You need to be able to be transparent with your spouse, because you can feel like someone's hiding something from you. You don't want the person that you love feeling like you're hiding something from them. And so if you don't have anything to hide, then you don't need to hide anything. And, I would also say, don't assume that when you get married that you are going to just have this amazing marriage with no effort at all. Like if there's something wrong with your marriage, if you have to work at it, or if you have to read a marriage book, or go to a marriage conference, or even get marriage counseling. The truth of the matter is, I would have much more confidence in a couple that was going to marriage conferences and getting marriage therapy and reading marriage books together. I would have 1,000 times more confidence in their marriage than a couple that appears to be doing great on the outside, but is doing none of those things, is putting very little effort to grow in the understanding of the opposite sex, understanding of marriage, understanding of communication, understanding of the seasons that we go through in life. There's so much to learn about the human mind, about the opposite sex, about marriage and relationships and communication. It's all important, and it all really adds value and depth to your relationship the more you learn about those things. And to assume that all you need is just a good sense of humor, and just to have some good problem solving skills, and just real good, strong, deep love and physical attraction, and to assume that's all you need, it's not wise. It's not. And so seek help from others, seek help from God, and seek help from each other. You will need each other's help, and you will need to be willing to help each other. And there will be times when you will feel like your wife isn't being a good wife. And then you have to have grace and say, I know she's a good woman. Maybe she's having a bad day. What could be possibly going on with her? Is there something that she's going through that she hasn't told me about? One thing I've learned of being married for 20 years is that women, they try to be positive, and they try not to sometimes show their pain and that they're suffering. They want to be strong, and they want to be, that strong person, and that's admirable. But at the same time, it can make it difficult for men to really understand what's going on, and to sort of adjust properly. And men can do it too. So it's important to communicate. That's where communication comes back is communicating with one another, and again, not hiding anything from each other. Because if you hide, and the thing is you might not think you're hiding, you might not feel like you're hiding, but in a way you kind of are. You're trying to hold back important information that could really help if you shared. So when in doubt, share. You should be able to trust each other and to trust that you can share really anything and never undervalue information in general, especially about yourself and your feelings. And the other thing I would say is timing. It's important to understand timing. There's a right time to approach someone. There's a right time to do things. And to be sensitive to the timing of your spouse. And just because it might seem like it's a good time for you, it might not be a good time for them. One of the things that we figured out to do in our 20 years of marriage is, we've had some arguments about sex, which I think if you're going to be married for 20 years, you're going to end up having some arguments about sex and money. And there were some times when basically I wanted it and she didn't, and I was kind of expecting it, and I was assuming that we were going to do it, and then she says that she's not feeling good, or it's not a good time. What was particularly frustrating is when we had already talked about it, and we had already sort of said, we're going to do this, tomorrow night. Today's not good. Let's do it tomorrow night. And then let's say her period started the next morning. So I'm thinking tomorrow night is going to be a really good night. Her period starts in the morning. She doesn't tell me, and I'm looking forward to a good time. And then I find out, maybe an hour before, or sometimes that moment when, we're going to bed. So she forgets to tell me, that, oh, sorry, I started. So things like that, men really need to know things like that. Like it's important to communicate. Again, we keep going back to communication. So it's extremely important to communicate, and if something changes, to let them know as soon as possible, because that's one of the worst things in the world for a man, is to think that tonight's my night and we're going to end well tonight, and then you're surprised. So sex is obviously an element in marriage. And that's just one thing, is timing, and to be sensitive to the other person's needs. And the advice I would give for men is as well is to accept, assuming they've communicated well, accept that, hey, tonight's not a good night. And there's always another opportunity, maybe tomorrow will be your night, but accept that you don't always get what you want when you want it, and that's part of life, and that's just how it is. And then you have to also agree on frequency, like you need to have these conversations, like how often are we going to do it that we both are happy. Every day, that might be a bit much for probably most women. And once or twice a month is probably not enough for most men. So there's a happy medium there somewhere, and talk about that, agree with something, and then try to stick with what you've agreed. And if you do that, if it kind of averages out, then nobody should be able to complain too much either way, because in general, you've kind of kept your agreement, and what you've agreed upon, and so there's a lot of things I could give. I've already went on for about 15 minutes. That's some of the best advice I could give. If I would maybe mention one thing about children quickly, because children is an important part of a marriage and family, assuming you have children. The thing I would say about children is that children, your relationship with your spouse should always come first, because your children's lives are being built around the relationship that you have with one another. And so if you don't have a good relationship with each other, that's going to have a huge effect with your children. And they're watching, they're learning, they're studying. Oh, this is how you be married. This is how you talk to a woman. This is how you talk to a man. This is what you do when you don't get what you want. When they're constantly taking mental notes, and they're watching everything you do and everything that you say. And what you are doing is you're showing them how to be married. This is what a good, healthy marriage looks like. So when they grow up and then they get married, they've seen it. They know that because they've watched over years and years mom and dad treat each other with respect and love and kindness and patience and all the fruits of the Spirit. So I hope this helped you. If you did benefit from this video, could you do me a favor and go ahead and like that? And if you really like this channel, I would ask you to consider to subscribe, and click on your bell, and then tell others about it. Share any or all of those would be great. But in the meantime, stay committed to your marriage. Keep having faith. Keep God in the center of your marriage. Keep loving and trusting each other. Don't give up. Don't give up. One last thing I want to say is that there were times when it was tough and I felt like giving up. And we needed sometimes some marriage counseling. We've had marriage counseling a couple times, and I'm so glad that we didn't give up. I'm so glad that we persevered through all the tough times, and over time things get better. There will be hard times, but if you're patient and if you do the work, it will get better. So God bless you, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.